If you're watching this video, you've probably seen some of my content around, such as some of my not-so-recent Deadlock content that I've been uploading. And I usually get asked a couple of questions.
Yo, are you the actual Lash?
Did you like in AI
The actual Lash?
Are you the voice actor? Holy shit.
But believe it or not, I'm actually a voice actor. Like, I've actually voiced in anime, video games, and a bunch of other stuff online that you might have seen. It was me, Barry. I even go to conventions sometimes, and the number one question I get asked online and at conventions is, how do I get into voice acting? I got tired of answering this question, and when a young man approached me and said, why don't you make a video on how to get into voice acting and send people there, I said, my goodness, what an idea. Why didn't I think of that? Truth be told, I've always wanted to make a video like this, but I've never had the confidence when it comes to explaining a process or teaching people things. So I really took my time writing the script for this and asking my friends how things looked. Plus, I'm a pretty slow editor to be honest, but I've finally finished it and here it is. My advice for how you can become a voice actor online for as little money as possible.
Maybe don't mention the money bit.
This is the Neumann TLM103, the microphone I personally use for the majority of my voiceover work, and this is an AT2020. Now these microphones have a few things in common, a few things not so in common, except the AT2020 is about $1,000 cheaper. Now on paper, the Neumann is the better microphone. In fact, it's up there with what most professional level studios might expect you to be working with if you're recording remotely. But if you're a beginner voice actor trying to get on the ground floor of a hobby that could one day bring you fame and financial stability on top of your day-to-day job, it's not a bad idea to start small. Like with these XLR mics, which also require an audio interface to power them. So even if you go with the cheapest options that I put on this list, your final price is gonna look more like this. No one said voice acting was a cheap hobby. If you're really on a shoestring budget, USB microphones are always available. They aren't as good as XLR microphones as they are the industry standard, so you might be a little restricted on what you can work on, but they also don't require an audio interface to power them, so you can just plug them into your computer and hey presto, start recording. And between XLR and USB, there's a whole range of different microphones that you can use with different builds that might actually complement your voice better than another microphone. And I'm not saying that to make your decision more complicated than it may seem. No matter how good your microphone is, it's not going to sound great if you don't have a treated space for it. Some people record under blankets, some people record in their closet. I personally recorded under a high wooden frame bed for like 2 years with my SL300 microphone. That's a USB microphone, by the way. No matter where you're at skill-wise or what equipment you start off with, there's no shame in it. And this is where we get to software. I'm gonna make this very easy. Get Reaper or Audacity. Or Tenacity. Now Audacity is stable and it was the go-to back in the day, but after a ownership change and some worries about privacy and things like that, some people got together and made Tenacity, which is actually based off a version of Audacity. Both are completely free, but Tenacity is open source and based off an older version of Audacity. It's currently in a pre-release state and does warn that you may experience some bugs or even lose work potentially. So while Audacity might be the more stable option, I actually recommend checking out Tenacity every now and then and see how their progress goes. Now Reaper is a little bit different. It's a fully paid for software, but it does have a free trial version that lasts for up to 60 days and there is no DRM, so they can't really take it away from you. So technically it's free software, but you should pay for it. The commercial license goes for $225, but the discounted license is $60. That's a really good price. I'm a big fan of the honor system and I hate it when people take advantage of it. So if you do try Reaper and you end up really liking the software, I'd highly suggest buying it. So now you've got your microphone, you have your software, and maybe your audio interface, and you're currently tucked away in your studio pillow fort. Where do you audition? Casting Call Club is the website, it's super organized, and it's a great place to compare and contrast work with other like-minded voice actors. But there's also a whole bunch of opportunities on social media platforms like X, Blue Sky, or even Instagram. And while you're probably not going to find a big anime audition on any of these sites, the opportunities that are there can vary from indie animations, video games, audio plays, and a whole lot more. There are also Discord servers like Voice Acting Club, which I've used in the past fairly often. All of these examples I've given so far give you the opportunity to work on both paid and non-paid projects. Which brings us to auditioning. Now auditioning for most projects isn't terribly complicated. but each audition process for each project can be a little bit different. A website like Casting Call Club streamlines the process somewhat, but when you're auditioning for a project through email, it's important to read all of the supplied information, whether or not they want the file that they receive to be in a WAV or MP3, where to send the audition to, and even if they want you to state your name at the beginning or end of the audition. We call this slating. The fact is, any good casting call will supply you with the necessary information that you need to know in order to successfully submit your audition. If we're talking auditioning tips, if you get the option to do more than one take for an audition, it's important to make meaningful changes in that second take, like with the emotion. Even if it's stated what kind of emotion they want to hear, it's a good idea to show a different perspective of how you are going to play that character, as well as showing off your range of emotion. Or rather than going into a completely different direction, try blending the requested emotion with another emotion. Another tip that I have is that readability in the voice that you are doing, and whether or not people can clearly understand you, is typically more preferred. So be sure to enunciate. Now, in the event that you are cast in a project, which is awesome, good job, I'm proud of you, you might get invited to a project Discord. In which case, all I have to say is be nice, be a little bit professional, because you're probably going to be grouping up with a bunch of people that you don't really know from a bunch of different places and backgrounds. So just try to be respectful of everyone. Which brings me to my next topic. The voice acting community is incredibly accessible. I've met a whole bunch of people in the voice acting community that are kind and super helpful, but at the same time, accessibility doesn't really equal safety. There is no screening process, and with people seemingly accessing the internet at younger and younger ages, it is always important to remind you that you don't really know who you're talking to behind the screen. Even if you meet them through voice acting, please show some discretion and think about how you conduct yourself and whether or not they are speaking to you in an appropriate manner. And as of right now, that's pretty much everything I've got for you in this video. And if there's any further questions that you have for me, feel free to ask them in the comments, and maybe I'll make a follow-up video covering that. So, until then.